waiting to reignite. It's a new galaxy with new characters. But we're still the same nerds who love friendship, storytelling, and romancing aliens. You used to know me as MJ, but I've actually changed my name over a year ago and decided to start using it for the podcast. So let me reintroduce myself as Frankie. My pronouns are she, they.
And I, of course, am still Matt, aka Stormageddon, and my pronouns are he, him.
Before we begin our journey into Andromeda, let's get some housekeeping out of the way right up front. We'd like to again thank our new friend, Psychic Interval, for partnering with us for the giveaway we hosted during our season break. Congratulations to Spectre Alafet, a good friend of the pod, who has also given me a home on Archives of the Dragon. The random generator did good when it pulled out your name. If you're sad you missed out on these gorgeous Reaper pins, please visit Psychic Interval on Etsy. They make amazing stuff and you won't regret it.
Yeah, their pins are great. They gifted us some pins that we could add to our collection as well, which was very kind of them. They're great. Go check out their shop and buy lots of pins. They have other stuff besides Mass Effect too, we should say. Like they have a whole host of nerdy stuff, so go check it out.
They have a really cute Breath of the Wild pin. Mm-hmm. Definitely look at that. Now we can begin. As many listeners know, this is actually Matt's first time playing Andromeda. If you're invested in his experience and guessing how he'll feel, who he'll romance, and making some oddly specific predictions, please visit bit.ly/storminandromeda to take our survey about what you think his experience will be like. Whoever racks up the most points by the end of the season will win a special prize pack to be determined. Don't worry, it'll be fun and cute.
Yeah, get in on the ground floor in something that I can't do for my own show. I mean, I guess I could under like a pseudonym, like start making predictions because I don't know what's going to happen. So it would be...
You don't know what's going to happen.
It'd be just as random.
I mean, we can have you make predictions in the episode. It's something that I considered.
Yeah, we'll see. I feel like let's get through the first couple of episodes and see how I feel about the whole experience because it's still super new.
Yeah. Well, one thing that isn't new is doing summary so that way people can have a recap of what we played and what we're about to talk about. So here is my summary. It's a little different than usual because we're covering the prologue. The Ryder family has traveled a great distance from the Milky Way to start a new life in Andromeda. The Ryder twins are separated due to a medical accident, but that doesn't put a stop to the mission. The Ryder twin left standing must head down with their father and recon team to see if the strange planet they staked out 600 years ago is in fact home for a new colony of humans. A new galaxy presents many challenges: dark matter, hostile aliens, and unfamiliar technology. As always, there is friendship, love, and loss. Our journey to Andromeda begins with a tragedy and a Ryder twin unexpectedly taking on a whole lot of responsibility.
Yeah, they don't sugarcoat the opening to this game, which, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised considering the same people who made Mass Effect 2 and 3, which also don't pull any punches. It makes sense that this would be so action-packed.
Yeah, it was a very dramatic beginning to the game. But let's start the way all these games do, with character creation.
Yep, and I came up with an idea that Frankie put a really cool spin on. So I had this idea that we should create ourselves and then help each other create our twin so we're in our games with each other. Frankie had the idea, well, why instead don't we each create both and we're creating the other twin as if how we see that person. So I created my Sarah to look like Frankie and Frankie created Scott to look like me. Because you can't change the name of the sibling.
So my Scott looks like you and your Sarah looks like me.
Correct. And yeah, I mean, character creation definitely has more options than the previous Mass Effect games. Better hairstyles, some more punk rock stuff, a variety of colors that we also don't have even in the Legendary Edition, which there was much complaining about.
So a thing that I really loved was that there wasn't a limitation on the gendering of hairstyle or makeup.
Yep.
But Sarah doesn't have access to facial hair, which seemed like a weird limitation to put on it.
Yeah, I guess it's still kind of binary, and like something incredibly binary is like, well, ladies can't have facial hair, which is obviously not true, but in the binary thinking, I can see that being more ever present than other stuff.
Right. It's not a great representation of people in general because, as you said, female presenting people do have facial hair, whether they're cisgender or transgender. Non-binary people have facial hair. Like, it's a thing. It's not something that should be gendered. It's not something that you should have to feel like you can't have if you're trying to be a femme presenting person. And it's not something anyone should ever be ashamed of, and it's not something anyone should ever be made to feel bad about. I just thought it was a very weird line to draw in the sand.
Yeah, I think that this definitely has better options for more diverse creation, but is still imperfect. Which, you know, I mean, this still came out quite a bit ago. It came out back in 2017. And so, you know, I'm hoping, at least, in the next Dragon Age or Mass Effect game, we'll have even more options and less limitations.
Well, I hope so. I would like a game designer to explain to me why I can't have blue hair. Like, please explain it to me, because every single BioWare game that I've interacted with, blue is just not an option. Like, a nice dark blue. No, fuck you. Like, get out of my house. I don't know why. But all of these hairstyles and colors aren't great. And I really wish you just gave me a color wheel like you do for eye color. Yeah. Just give me a color wheel. Why do I need to have, like, these gradients? Like, why are my roots showing? What is happening?
Yeah, it is odd, the limitations that are here. But, again, does have more creation options than the original trilogy did, which is at least nice to see that upgrade.
There is more variety. Like, for example, with the makeup. There's so many more makeup options, which is neat, but also I feel like they try really hard to be futuristic.
Yes. Yes, quite.
Like, it's very cyberpunk. It's very well, not solar punk, but it's trying very hard to be punk in a way that kind of falls short, in my opinion, but it's something different. I also wish piercings were an option. I feel like at this point I should be allowed to have a piercing.
Yeah. You know, and the tattoo options are always weirdly limiting, and a small variety.
The tattoo options are weird.
Yeah.
What did you choose as your starting class?
So, funny story. I am having trouble remembering the name of the class. So, and you'd think with my dozens of notes I took that I would have actually put that information in here. I chose the equivalent of the Vanguard that allows me to charge in and stab.
The Scrapper.
The Scrapper, yes.
That's what I chose as well, because fuck you. I wanted the thing that I enjoy.
That's fair. Yeah, we'll talk more about it during the gameplay section, but like I think I already don't like my class. But we'll talk more about that in a minute.
I liked the concept of Scrapper because of the way that it was described. Mm-hmm. It was described as being the first one into the fray. Whenever a fight breaks out, everybody knows that you're going to be there in the middle of everything. And that was something interesting they had done with the classes this time. Instead of just telling you what powers it gave you a little more flavor and a little more background as to what kind of personality you are depicting with that choice.
Yeah, and the classes, some of them are the same and some of them are a bit different. Like the Vanguard equivalent is more in the middle of the fray focus than even the original Vanguard was. But then there's stuff like the Infiltrator is more or less the same. The Adept is more or less the same. Like, the way you level up and things are different, but those classes kind of are the same as previous games.
How do you feel about your character overall?
I mean,
once you finish the creation,
I think it looks close to me, but not exactly like me. Like, for my main gripe about this character creation that seems oddly limiting is the hair. It's all got to be one color. The sides couldn't be darker unless you chose certain shades. And so that was a bit of a pain in the ass because my hair is purple, but the sides are back to brown because it grows really fast.
Right. And I have a similar.
Yeah. And so the hairs for my version of you and me are very bright, and like, it's fine, but it throws me off a little. Also, this galaxy doesn't believe in glasses. So, like, neither character has glasses, which also looks weird to me. But I think I did an okay job.
Everybody gets LASIK in the future.
Right, obviously.
I don't love the way my writer came out because I couldn't quite get... Like, my hair currently is purple, blue, pink, and orange. And that wasn't a palette that was available when I was creating my character. So I had to pick what was most representative of me. And then I wanted to think about, well, if I was in this future scenario where I had all of these options available to me, what is it that I would have chose? So it was a little less like making it look exactly like me and more like representative of who I am.
Yeah, mine I mostly focused on trying to make look like me, and same for you. I actually pulled up your Instagram to like look at photos of you to see what I could do.
Oh, I did that too.
Yeah.
John was sitting with me. He's like, you are putting way too much thought into this. I would have just like picked one preset and been like, we're good.
If I was just making for me for a playthrough, not for this podcast, I probably would have done that, or left the default even. But for this, I was like, we made a decision. I'm going to put my work in and make it happen.
Well, I did the same. So that's great. Are you ready to do the reveal? We haven't seen each other's characters yet. We're going to do it right now.
So for the audio version of this podcast, as it primarily exists, you're going to listen to us react. But I will try and edit some kind of video version to put out of our reactions as well. Hold me to that, because who knows if it'll actually happen by the time this airs. But yes, I guess I'll go first.
Okay.
So I'm going to reveal my writer, and then Sarah after. And so we will get your reaction live as I share my screen, starting with me. So there I am.
Okay.
I think I did an okay job. Like, it looks...
Yeah.
It's visions of me. So yeah, so that's me. Purple hair. And we'll post these screenshots on the Twitter and Facebook as well once this episode goes live. And so now, are you ready to see you as through my eyes?
Yes.
Okay.
I am so ready.
And here we go.
Okay.
So I went with the undercut as well because while you do have longer hair now, I think the undercut is more key to your personality and how I think about you. So, and then here is another one more straight on.
All right. Yeah, that looks more like my face. I think the face that you built and the face that I built are similar in terms of structure.
Yeah. And for the record, also, the eyeshadow although it's a little light, and the lipstick color are based on the photo I was looking of you on Instagram. I chose that makeup. I was like, well, they're already wearing that makeup, so why not?
It's just easier that way.
Right.
That's fair.
Okay. All right. I will stop sharing my screen. So you can now share your screenshots with me, and I can see your vision of you and then your vision of me.
All right. There's me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the faces are actually quite similar.
Yeah, like the shape is it's right there.
Yeah, and the nose size, too, is about the same. Even your lipstick color is close to the color I chose. Mine's a little lighter. I think that's pretty funny.
Yeah, well, I went as dark as it would let me.
Sure. But yeah, okay, so I see the similarities, so that's cool. That worked out.
Yeah, and I went with my orange because the bottom of my hair is orange, and I feel like that's a little more visible these days. So I went with the more visible hair. And also I gave myself like more elaborate makeup because I was like, you know what? If I had the time and energy to do this makeup, I would do it.
Right.
So, and I also gave myself a tattoo because I have tattoos.
Yeah, sure. And
now for the reveal. Bam.
Oh, nice. Okay, so you did the same hair and very close to the same color, too, which is impressive.
Yeah. I think I went a little darker because at the time you had freshly dyed your hair.
I had, yeah, and where it's more faded now. And the facial hair is the same, because of course. Mm-hmm. And you gave me guy liner, which is bold of you, and something I would wear.
I feel like you would do it.
I would. I absolutely would. Oh, it took a lot of self-control to not give myself, like, dark rings a la like my emo phase, but I was like, no, I don't really wear a lot of makeup now, so I'm not gonna. But yeah, no, that's they're like, what you thought would happen did happen. There are similarities based on what we know of ourselves, and then there are differences based on us being us and being creative. But I feel like more or less the basics are the same. Like both our head shapes are the same.
Yeah, I think my version of you is maybe a little more square.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that is what your face looked like in the picture I was looking at.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think it's close. I think that I'm curious. We'll let the audience decide via our tweets what they think of, like, who did the best. Who did the best, Matt?
Who did the best work?
Right. Did we make ourselves best, or did the other person make us better? I feel like folks are going to vote for yours just because they were a little more creative.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Unless you want to do dad reveal as well.
Oh, yeah, you had wanted to see mine, right? I have a feeling they're going to be much similar.
Dad reveal. Then you can show me your dad. Because one thing that this game does is it pulls features based on the rider that you design to change the way that Alec Rider looks, which is something that they do in Dragon Age 2 as well.
Right.
So this is my dad.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the nose and I can see the eyes a little. The head shape is the same and the hair doesn't seem to change. But yeah,
no,
I can see
he has that hairstyle no matter what.
Yeah. All right, let's do the dad reveal for me.
Let me see your dad.
Compelling audio, I know. The funniest thing, though, is that, like, Frankie and I know each other's dads. So, like, it's humorous to see what this game does for dads, all things considered.
Every time I say my dad, I just think of Steven Universe.
Yeah, that's good.
Are you my dad?
And so that's what mine looks like.
That does look like your dad.
Right? If he had the goatee, he would look like my dad, yeah.
Give him some facial hair and that's the man.
Yeah. So that was pretty entertaining for me.
Yeah. My version of Alec looks nothing like my father.
No.
The hairstyle.
The hairstyle
is
similar.
Right.
Yeah.
Just thin it out a little bit and then you'd have my dad.
Yeah. So yeah.
We have so much fun here.
We do. I hope that was entertaining for the listeners. Well, like I said, we'll try and release the video, but we'll definitely release the screenshots so you can look along with us. In fact, I feel like we should the tweet, since each tweet can have up to 4 photos, we'll do a 3-photo tweet of my creations and dad, and then a 3-photo tweet of your creations and dad. I think is the best way to do that. So keep an eye out on our Twitter for that.
And so begins the game.
Yes.
We find out that the human arc called Hyperion has been traveling for 634 years from the Milky Way to Andromeda. This arc is huge.
Huge.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, I took a screenshot of it. It reminds me of like the Star Wars Star Destroyer kind of look to it. Like it's kind of long and pointy, and it's just massive, especially compared to every other ship we saw in the original trilogy. Like there was nothing on this scale except maybe the Destiny Ascension, but everything else was much, much smaller.
Well, it has to be big because it is carrying 20,000 humans.
20,000 humans. Wild.
20,000 humans.
Yeah, it made me wonder, because we're going to talk about the opening moments in a sec, but is the Asari doctor on the ship the only Asari? Because like they keep talking about all these humans, and then there's one Asari doctor, and I'm like, that must suck. When I'm around 10 humans, it sucks. So like, I can only imagine.
Honestly, you're absolutely right. I didn't even think about it. I just, like, accept Lexi Tapero's existence. I was just like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, this is a human arc, and there is an Asari doctor checking me out. This is absolutely 100% what's supposed to be happening. I didn't even think about it until you said anything.
Yep. Once we see the arc traveling, and then we go inside the ship, and we get to see the beginnings of people waking up, including your rider, the player character's rider. We
also find out that there's really no more Paragon or Renegade choices. Everything is more tonal based, like in Dragon Age 2 or Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a lot, being that we've played all these games, but it is clear that this game followed Inquisition and took a lot of cues from Inquisition for sure. A game I have played.
Yes. And I can see where they drew inspiration, and honestly, I like that. I think that with Renegade and Paragon, you get caught up in doing the right thing or doing the not bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it is the aggressive thing.
Aggressive, yeah. Which Dragon Age had as well. I will say, in the opening moments of the cutscenes, I was weirded out by it. Mostly because I've spent so much time with the character models from the original trilogy, and even in the Legendary Edition, the original trilogy, more or less, like everything's shinier and more detailed, but the models are the same. And there's a range of Asari character models in that game. Whereas here, this is an Asari face I've never seen before, which was cool, but also weird because I'm just so used to the design of the original game. Everything is much shinier, much more detailed here. much more flowy, as it were.
Yeah, and you're meeting new faces that you've never met before. Whereas when we played the original trilogy, it's like seeing old friends that you haven't seen for a long time. So for you, it's like walking into a party where you don't know anyone.
Correct.
Which can be anxiety ridden.
Yeah, a little bit.
I have a note here where I say, Cora's a cheese, and I don't remember why I said that.
So when I'm woken up, I yelled at the top of my lungs, "They know me." And then I wrote coffee exclamation point, which is what I couldn't realize why I put that until I remembered the first thing they do is give me coffee. And I was like, this game knows who I am. They know the priorities. Yeah, we find out really quickly that Sarah, for me, can't be woken up yet, but she'll be fine. There's just some things that they're monitoring.
Oh, let me interrupt you because there was something that happened in between us waking up and finding out that our twin can't wake up.
Yeah.
And it was something that I found weird. This is a very tutorial spot. This is where they teach you about the tone of dialogue, where they teach you how to move around and use your tools and everything. And as you're waking up and you're being tested by Lexi to make sure that, you know, you've shaken off the effects of cryo, you're offered the chance to wait around for your twin to wake up. Because it's nice to see a friendly face when you're coming out of a 600-year sleep, right?
Yeah.
But things don't really go the way as planned because there is an incident outside the ship where the Ark hits this massive field of dark energy and it just fucks with everything. Gravity shuts off, the pods start drifting around, one crashes into a wall. It's very dramatic, and all you can really do is float there and look around. So that's the tutorial moment for, like, use the camera to look around and observe your surroundings. And finally, when you can move, you have to walk across the room to find out what happened to your twin's pod. Yeah. So I thought it was very strange that they broke up that scene with, and now walk 3 feet forward. Yeah,
especially since you're gonna do so much walking after that too. So like, yeah, it does seem odd.
It felt unnecessary. But that's when we do find out, as you were saying, that the twin can't be woken up yet. For me, my Scott Ryder can't be woken because his pod sustained damage. So he's alive and he's okay, but he has to stay under a little while longer.
Yeah, I will say that the minute that Cora walked into the room, I did take notice. She is absolutely my type, you know. She's got an undercut. She seems very queer. So, you know, just want to put that out for the listeners that I did take notice of that. Where she gives off that kind of tough lady queer vibe that I would akin to a Cassandra. I don't know her that well yet, but that's the vibe I get. Anyway, but yeah, and so then after this, the ship is kind of in distress because of this gravity fluctuation, and so you have to run and do some scanning and fix some stuff in engineering. And this is the first moment where I felt a little push against what the game is giving me. The scanning mechanic is interesting. I think it's a cool new thing to do. It just feels kind of tacked on a little. It was cool to solve that kind of, not puzzle, but like moment of just scanning the different, what turbines, whatever they were, and then finding the issues and reconnecting them and fixing it and restarting it. But it just felt, it's a tutorial, right? And tutorials tend to be awkward if they're not fully integrated. But I feel like the early moments of Dragon Age Inquisition, just as a comparison point, did better of tutorializing than this did. This feels a little clunkier tutorial-wise.
I feel like that might not be a super good, not good comparison, but not a straightforward comparison. Sure. Because they are different genres and there are different elements. And since we've never used a scanner in the original trilogy, I don't know, I can see what you're saying. I personally like the scanner. I think it's really neat.
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea, and I used it a bunch on the planet, and we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, so after we do the scanning and do some engineer work, we run to the bridge to find our father.
Dad!
Who is having a time.
It's always down to daddy issues in this fucking series.
That's true. That's true.
Cora's haircut, by the way, is what I actually wanted when I was designing my character. And I was so mad.
Same. Because
like, why can't I just have that?
Right. Because like the undercuts that I chose are slicked back undercuts, which I've had in the past and you've done also in the past. So like it felt right. But the actual haircut that I currently have as we are talking to each other on the Zoom call is Cora's haircut, and I'm so mad that I can't have it.
But whatever. Fuck us, I guess.
I guess so.
Fuck what we want. So when we get to the bridge, we find out that the planet that we had been aiming for has changed in the 600 years since we embarked.
Yes.
And now we have to figure out if it's actually fit to be home or not.
Yep. Habitat 7, as it's called, it was the destination planet for our people to create new human life. Everything is a little chaotic. There's these electrical storms that look like a giant, like, red tentacle web, essentially. And every time the ship moves in it, it sustains more damage. So now the ship is kind of stuck in it, and we need to go down to the surface to see what's going on. And so our father, the N7 that he is, decides that we should go with a small team, and Cora and I are to be included in that team to go down to the surface.
I have a question. Who did you side with? Did you side with Alec or Captain Dunn?
I sided with Alec.
Interesting. I sided with Captain Dunn. Because even though he is the Pathfinder, she's the captain.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like sticking it to my dad a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. Something that you get a better sense of later on is that the game, the natural course of the game is that you're meant to have issues with your father. Like, you don't really know him. A lot of the conversation when Cora asks you questions is you going, well, I don't know. But, you know, Cora telling you things about your dad that you would think you would know. And so, like, it's clear that the main narrative was for you to be challenged with your father, but you can still back him up and like be, you know, someone who is more affectionate towards their father. It just doesn't seem to fit with the narrative they're kind of constructing in this early mission.
I feel like a writer twin who is more sympathetic or empathetic towards their father is someone who is like, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
You have never once proven to me that you deserve it, but I'm going to do it because I'm a good person.
Which is more or less what I did. Because I think a lot of innocence drove that. But when we find out that we are going to be going to the surface, we then have to go gear up and meet some of the other folks who are coming with us. And this is where they show you some of the more menus, how to equip a helmet, and more tutorializing stuff. You can also pet a rock.
Something that comes up in conversation is, in the original trilogy, it was either or, and then the other option just didn't exist anymore.
Right.
Whereas in this, you choose if you want to be Sarah or Scott, but Sarah and Scott still exist.
Yeah.
So when my writer is being kind of sad that Scott is, you know, unable to wake up, like 600-year-long nap, and he oversleeps.
Yeah.
Cora asks about if all of the writers are adrenaline junkies, and Sarah says that she is canonically older than Scott, which is different for our relationship.
Correct. Yeah. Whereas I am the older one. Yeah. I mean, I took the same kind of conversation path, just saying that I regret that Sarah can't come with. You know, she's going to be so mad that she missed this, which, like, in a sibling-ish relationship between the two of us, I would probably give you shit for oversleeping, even though it's not your fault. Like, that's a thing that both of us would do to the other, probably. And so that felt very natural in this exchange.
We also get some insight on the first contact protocol that we're supposed to be engaging in. And I thought it was really interesting how it differs from the first contact that we experienced in Mass Effect 3 with Javik.
Yeah. And I think what's also interesting is that this game seems more, the first three games seem more inspired by Star Wars, whereas this game actually feels, so far at least, more inspired by Star Trek. You know, more wanting to, pathfinding being more about discovery and wanting to make connections and, you know, not assuming things are hostile. Whereas in the Mass Effect trilogy, the original trilogy, everything was assumed hostile most of the time. It was very more combat focused, where this does seem to put exploration forward in a way that, at least in the conversation so far, that the other games did not.
I completely agree with that. I feel like this game, I don't want to say it doesn't have elements of fantasy, because it certainly does, but it has a little bit more focus on the science and science fiction. Mm-hmm. And like you said, there is that thread of Star Trek through it, to boldly go, to explore, to obey a prime directive. Mm-hmm. Like, do not assume hostility, do not shoot unless shot at first, things like that.
Yeah.
Whereas in the original trilogy, the First Contact Protocol was to assume hostility because of what happened with the Turians.
Right.
But because we are new people in a new galaxy in a world where we have to build a home for ourselves, we have to be very much like, we just would like to have a patch of land, please.
Yeah.
Please do not kill us. And there is this kind of colonizer thread that we have to be careful of.
Yep.
So I have mixed feelings on that, but from personal experience, I think it will be okay.
Yeah, I have more comments to say about that once we're on the planet and some of the things that happen interaction-wise there. As we're gearing up and stuff, as I said, we get to pet the good luck. This rock has been on every mission with Alec since his early days in the N7 program. We didn't mention earlier, but we briefly met Liam, who are now going to fully meet. Because he's there during the chaos as you wake up, but you don't get introduced. He's just kind of there helping to make sure you wake up. It's not until...
He waves at you nicely from across the room.
Yeah. It's not until we get out of the locker room and head towards the shuttle that we then properly meet Liam, who is also on the team with us, who is also going down to the planet with us.
I have a couple of notes that I just don't want to miss. What tone do you find yourself leaning toward?
More empathetic.
Empathetic? Yeah, that makes sense. You're softy.
I haven't found, we talk about in the original trilogy, and there will be, at least in the early days, a lot of comparison to that, because that's the only anchor point I have at this point. I tended to be more Paragon with some, Renegade when the moment struck. And I feel like here I'm probably going to be more empathetic with, some more aggression if the moment warrants it, And so far, at least up until this point, I mostly chose empathetic choices, which is what I intended to do in Dragon Age, which has a similar choice system.
I feel like my tone is a little all over the place. Like sometimes empathetic, sometimes casual. Mm-hmm. Because especially when I'm around new people that I don't know super well, I kind of want to play it a little cooler and be like, I am totally put together.
Yeah.
I am not worried at all.
Sure, yeah. I'm not panicking and having an anxiety attack.
Exactly. And the best way to do that is to make sarcastic comments and to be like, haha, aren't I funny? Please focus on that.
Yeah, exactly.
I also wanted to repeat a quote that Cora said because she was talking about travelers, and I just really liked the way that she said it. Nothing but stars and dead reckoning to guide them. I just really love that phrase.
It's a good line. It has not escaped me that I'm teaming up with someone named Cora, of which there is a den named in the first Mass Effect, which I'm sure is not an accident.
Cora's den.
Yeah. Which is not an accident. I'm sure she's not that Cora, but I'm sure it is a nod to Cora's den into that previous trilogy.
Dr. Carlyle is a silver fox.
Dr. Carlyle is a silver fox. He gives me Bones McCoy vibes, which I'm sure is not accidental as well. I did write down his name as well because I was afraid to forget it. Also, when our dad comes out of the shuttle, he's brandishing his very Shepard-esque N7 armor. I believe he's an N7. Is he a Spectre as well? No, he's just an N7.
He was one of the first N7s.
He's just one of the first N7s. The armor looks strikingly similar to Shepard's armor.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I guess some of that is probably pretty standard issue, but it was just something I definitely took note of. I also have a note here, Dad is cranky. He seems perturbed that we have to do all of this.
He is a cranky man. As we get into the shuttles, we get an opportunity to look around the dark energy cloud. And it's an interesting cutscene. It's a little interactive because you do get that opportunity to really look around, but you can't really move or anything.
Yeah. It reminds me of what the original Arrival to the Citadel scene was without control, right? Like in that scene, Ashley is freaking out at how big it is, and it goes between cutscenes and rendered character models, but there's no, you can't look around. This allows you to actually look out the window you want to look at and see what's going on. And
you can even turn inside the shuttle to look at Liam and to look at the other characters who are in there with you.
Yep. Unfortunately, you don't get to do much sightseeing for very long.
Yeah, things go to hell real fast.
Real fast. It turns out the electrical storm that was tearing up our giant ship also is tearing up our shuttles. And so multiple shuttles that are heading towards Habitat 7 get hit with some kind of flux and start to crash, including your ship that you're on with Liam.
Our ship basically gets ripped in half.
Yep. And it is a miracle that you survive.
Yep. You almost don't
Yeah.
because there's a crack in your helmet and the atmosphere is apparently poison.
Yep, and you scramble, but thankfully the suit has a repair function if it's only a minor crack, which it was able to fix, and you can not die.
I really liked the crack itself because it was foreshadowing for later.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that at the time.
Right, you didn't know that at the time. We know that now, but I thought that it was a neat bit of narrative and storytelling because later, when another helmet mishap occurs, you know this is a bad thing because of what happened earlier.
Even though they say that the atmosphere is mostly not breathable for humans, this is like a moment where you get to see the panic, you get to see the urgency.
Right. But the planet itself, it's incredible. It is deadly. It's ethereal. It's whimsical in a lot of ways. You have these floating islands out in the distance that are being brought up towards the sky by the electrical storms. You have lightning coming down all around you. These plants that you've never seen before that curl in on themselves. It's beautiful design.
It is. It's gorgeous. It looks really cool. You, after moments, are reunited with Liam, who has also survived and joined your party, as it were, and now you are given the opportunity to freely explore.
Yeah.
This is a moment where I send Frankie a text in all caps saying, "You can jump?" As Liam teaches you how to use your booster jets, which essentially are a jump button, and you can dash as well. The traversal here feels very, we're going to make this comparison, I think, quite a bit in moments, but like it feels very much like Dragon Age Inquisition and the way you would explore the open areas there. You can jump around, you can, the camera zooms out much further. There's a wider range of vision, and you're expected to do more exploration clearly here than in previous games.
I liked that while there was an expectation for us to explore and jump around and all that, it still wasn't confusing.
No.
Like, I could tell where I was supposed to go, and I did not get lost in like, well, what if I try and climb this mountain? I clearly can't try and climb this mountain.
Right.
And I don't have to try and force myself to climb the mountain because I don't know. Because there are very clear markers and indications of which way I should go. I thought it was pretty good for a tutorial. I didn't feel overly babied, and I felt appropriately guided.
Yeah, I would agree. But it felt weird. Just the traversal didn't feel to fit the game, only because the last time I played a third-person shooter in this universe, we didn't have this kind of traversal. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just meant I was trying to get used to it. And it took quite a bit of adjustment, especially the first time we get into combat, and it jumps into the more traditional Mass Effect third-person over-the-shoulder shooting setup.
Speaking of combat, we do encounter our first contact.
Yep, and you take cover along with Liam. You see someone who is injured, and they are being harassed by aliens that you are unfamiliar. They don't look like any other alien from the Mass Effect franchise. They are a new race introduced in this game. And you as the character at this time, know nothing about them. And because your connection to the ship and Sam has gone down, you can't get info. When you scan things up to this point, you get a lot of question marks. And it's funny because Ryder will then stumble to try and kind of science it with their own knowledge, which is very funny.
Yeah, Sarah does that too. Because we didn't mention this. Both writers have different backgrounds.
Yeah.
My writer was a archaeologist of sorts who worked with an Alliance team to work on Prothean artifacts, whereas your writer guarded a Mass Effect relay.
Yep. And had basic military training for guarding that.
I just really like that. I think that's so great. They're two completely different people.
Yeah. In this moment when you're hiding, you and Liam were confronted with a choice to make. Liam asks, well, what should we do? Should we follow protocol and try and talk to them peacefully, or should we just attack? Which did you choose?
I tried to approach peacefully.
Same. I was like, I don't know this alien race. I think that we should try and find out what's going on here. And so, yeah, I did the same. But, unfortunately, it does not work out very well. They are not keen to talk.
No, they attack you, so it doesn't really matter.
Yep, and this is when you have the first combat. I did my biotic charging, and the flow to biotic charge in melee is really interesting. Combat feels a little weird to me. the control feels a little more floaty than it did in the original games. And so I'm clearly still trying to adjust. It is similar enough that I understand the gist, but it's different enough that I feel a little lost still.
Yeah, that's fair. We find out that Fisher's leg is broken. Kirkland has been shot down.
R.I.P. Kirkland.
And yeah, we have to explore.
Yep, we do find, as we explore, we find Kirkland's body. We get into more fights as we try and discover more information about this planet. We also, you can explore like an alien warehouse where they are keeping things. You don't really know what anything does.
Did you turn on the alien machine?
I did. And when I turn on the lights, you scare the bejesus out of Liam.
Oh, Liam. How do you feel about Liam so far? He used to be a cop, and then he was in crisis response before joining Andromeda.
You know, don't love a cop, especially nowadays. But I don't know. My problem with Liam is he is very gung-ho to fight, and I don't love that. Like, he's ready to pull the trigger. He seems very aggressive. He does some trash talking when you're fighting against these aliens. He's very aggressive and, like, is almost excited to fight, and I just don't love that. It's clear that there's depth to this character, but he does feel a little it feels a little hinky that he's so quick to kill. But, you know, I mean, I'm hoping that we explore that and find out more. And so I'm giving Liam side eye at this moment. Like, indefinite side eye until I get a better sense of who he is.
That's fair.
He's not particularly cruel to you, but he's definitely cruel to these aliens. Like, still, there's a scene later, which we'll get to, where he's over aggressive, and so those kinds of things are what kind of are red flags to me. But we'll get to that.
I can for sure see that. Yeah. So when we go to this alien warehouse, you encounter these two opposing technologies. There is something going on this planet that is a little difficult for us to understand without knowing the language, without being able to communicate, without having our own technology functioning.
Because at this point, we still have no communication with Sam.
Right.
And so, you know, we continue to explore. We eventually do find, I believe, do we find Cora next?
There are two people you could find next. You can find Cora or you can find Greer.
Greer, right. So I found Greer.
He was in a cave, right? Yeah.
And then I went to the main combat point, where the intact shuttle is there, and Cora and the doctor are there, and you rendezvous with them and then have a giant firefight.
My problem a little bit is because I've played this game like 5 times, it is a little harder for me to explore organically because now I'm trying to remember where map points are, and I'm just like, oh, I don't remember which way I'm supposed to go. And I have to kind of dislodge that from my head so I can explore a little more organically, because I ran around this map being like, I know that Greer's here somewhere. Why can't I find him?
Right.
And I just kept avoiding Cora because I'm like, I know there's a fight over there, but I need to find Greer. Because if I don't find Greer, then I never find Greer, and then everything is terrible forever for me personally. But I like the combat. It does take a minute to get used to when you haven't done these controls in a while in my case, or ever in your case.
Yeah, I struggled a little bit here. I don't love the combat in this moment, but I think it's because I'm not happy with the class I picked. It's just, I don't feel particularly strong enough to be in the thick of things, especially in this larger scale battle here at the shuttle. There's so many enemies, including the, like, animal, like, on 4 legs creatures that are dog-like, that, like, really do a lot of damage when they get in close. It just feels too frenetic, and I feel like in this game I might be better with more distant stuff. Now, it does look like I can still spec into a lot of biotic abilities like a Vanguard can, so I might get some range, but at this point, I'm just I don't love the Scrappers combat. I'm hoping as I get better gear and stuff, that'll change, but we'll see.
We get to this moment that you were referring to where Liam gets overly aggressive. He is so upset with the hostile aliens that he fires into one, even though it's already dead, multiple times, just to get out his aggression.
And then when when Cora says that's enough, he does it again.
Yeah, one more time for good measure.
And it's just, that action made me write down Liam as a dick. And, like, I get why he's angry, but it felt gross to me.
And it's not a good look knowing that he used to be a cop. It's not a good look.
We find out, we get to report in, we get to tell them, you know, where Fisher is and that Fisher's injured and will need help. It's in this moment that we find out that Cora is a biotic, right? Yeah.
Yes.
More enemies come and try to jump us, and she uses her biotic abilities to protect us and take them out.
Well, she uses her biotics first to protect the injured from a lightning strike.
Oh, that's right.
Which she looks so badass doing it. She's so cool. But then there's this really weird reaction to her biotics. Like, Liam replies being like, oh, I didn't know you were biotic. And she goes, it's not contagious. Like, sweetie, nobody is ever going to treat you like biotics are contagious. Like, hello.
Yeah. I mean, also,
what?
She seems defensive, and I'm wondering if we find out more. And I mean, considering how Caden talks about humans with biotics and stuff, and like how they're often thought of as othered, it could come from that. But there was a defensiveness of like, don't worry, you'll be fine.
And also, I felt like Liam's tone about like, oh, I didn't know you were biotic didn't warrant it.
Yeah.
Because his tone did not indicate that he had a problem at all. He was just like, oh, cool. That's a thing about you that I did not know.
Yeah. The funny thing about...
like, that's exciting.
The funny thing about that, too, is like, I've been using a biotic abilities this whole time. So, like...
Right.
Yeah. It's a very weird moment.
We do hear from our dad, finally.
Yep. He has found the problem and needs us to rendezvous to help him solve the problem.
The storm is the problem, so let's solve the problem. Something that I say often. Storm is often my problem. And the only way to solve it is murder. Only murders on the podcast. I'm sorry.
It's fine. Yeah, so we meet him and we find the main hub for what's creating the storm. It's the spire. And your dad wants to infiltrate, and you get this moment where you can talk back to him and be like, you can say something supportive, or you can be like, are you crazy? There's no way. Like, you can be kind of like beleaguered about the idea of trying to get in there. And even Liam, I think, is like, there's only like 4 of us. How are we going to get in? Like,
change the math. All right, calm down. I actually really don't like the way Alec talks to Sarah, and this could be my own personal, like, trauma coming in.
Yeah.
Because my dad used to talk to me like this all the time, and it made me so angry, where he goes, oh, you actually did some scouting.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, it's kind of my job.
Yeah. He talks down to you in this way, and it's just like, I don't like that.
I don't like that at all. Like, excuse you? Fuck you. And he's just like, oh, you never know what people are like until they're in the moment. And I'm just like, okay, but I'm your child, and maybe you should give me, like, some benefit of the doubt. Like, why else would you put me on this team? What?
Yeah.
I don't like his leadership style.
Yeah. That won't matter that much longer.
Aw.
So yeah, all of the rest of this area is waves of combat and trying to infiltrate this base. I'm still struggling with the combat here. I just feel overwhelmed, and I don't...
This section was really overwhelming. I don't think that's just you. It moves so fast.
Yeah.
And I personally feel that it was intentional.
Yes.
Because Alec just, like, glides right through it, and he keeps calling out like, Sam, give me this combat profile, and Sam, give me this combat profile, and he's just powering through all of these enemies, and you hear Liam behind you like, how is your dad doing this? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I think you're meant to feel like rushed and harried, and you have to keep up with your dad because like these enemies don't super matter. You have to get to your location.
Yeah. Just for me at this point, because I'm also unhappy with my combat style, I just don't...
I'm sure it didn't help.
Yeah, like the guns I have are fine, but like being close range is a recipe for death because you get killed so easily. And like I'm playing on normal difficulty and I could knock it down, but I feel like that's not going to solve the problem completely because I think it's just... There's something about the impact of the charge in the original trilogy that is lessened here. And now I understand there's the idea of leveling up these classes, but I think I'm just not vibing with this version of the melee charging class that I thought I would. But it's fine. I pushed through. I stopped using my charge mostly because at this point you level up. And so I also had, I think I did pull or push. I think I did push. And so I had push. And so I was using push and knocking them over. They fall over like sacks of potatoes once you hit them with it, which is like, that is real good. That was very satisfying.
Yeah, this particular section is a little hard to have the melee abilities because you have to like guard your dad and they're far off, and if you like get too far away, they call you back.
Yep.
And it's like, but my whole thing.
This is my whole point.
It's literally my thing. Control-wise, one thing that fucks me up and is going to fuck me up forever is that Y is not an ability button. It is your melee button or your like interaction button.
Mm-hmm.
And to do your abilities, it's right bumper, left bumper, or both bumpers together.
Yeah.
And it's the both bumpers together that confuses me every time because I'm like, no, it was Y.
That's something that we should talk about because we actually haven't mentioned yet in this episode how we're playing the game. Because we haven't mentioned what consoles we're playing them on. So you're playing it on the Xbox One, right?
Yes, the X-Bone.
The X-Bone. And I am playing it on the PS5. I'm playing the PS4 version. Hallelujah, controller. Even though I did cheat in Season 3 and added a mod for controller support on the PC. Because, damn it, if BioWare's not going to do it, I am. But yeah, so that was weird for me, too, is the charges on a bumper when it would have been the triangle button. I had played through, for the record, did play through with the entire Legendary Edition on the PS5 as well. And so, like, yeah, I also had that problem often. And, like, remembering to just use the shoulder buttons for your abilities and stuff was a little weird. I eventually got used to it. I think that I do like how visceral the melee is. It does feel more like they took cues from their other games because the melee in the third game was very theatrical, and then in the melee in the first two games was non-existent. Like you would just punch or swing your gun, whereas in the third game it was very performative, right? Shepard would yell, the camera would zoom in, and you would use your ability, whether it was a biotic punch or a blade or whatever. The camera stays zoomed out. It feels very like melee combat in a fantasy game feel to it, which is a nice thing if you're trying to create this kind of melee character.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little more fluid. While the like turning the melee into a cinematic moment was interesting.
Yeah.
I felt like it broke up the flow of combat in the original trilogy. So I like that I can just punch something and keep going.
Yeah. I mean, also the problem in the third game is like there weren't melee classes. It was
right.
You could build your infiltrator to mostly be melee like a Kasumi kind of character, but you're always going to need your guns because the melee only does so much. And like same with the Vanguard, like the biotic charge to a punch will do good work, especially by the end of the game, but you can never only be melee. It was not designed that. Where it does seem like there's potential for that in this game to kind of focus on your melee attacks and use your guns, but like only as like intermittent. So I'm curious to see how that grows if I continue to focus on that or just get more powers.
Once the combat is over, then we finally get into this tower.
Yep. Where your dad, with the help of Sam, is just like, oh, I know how to handle this. I got it. I'm going to turn it off. And like everyone else is kind of just dumbfounded. But your dad does. With Sam's help, he's able to turn off the tower and reduce the storm until the storm stops, which is like astonishing. So after your dad magically figures out how to turn off the tower then goes, out with you.
Just be like, be gone, thought. Yeah, so this is the scene that I like to call a little trauma as a treat.
Yeah, you're spit out of the tower and your helmet cracks, this time severe and cannot be repaired, and you're starting to suffocate.
Chekhov's helmet.
And your dad...
In before any of our listeners.
And then your dad, as you're like passing out, like you can see him taking his helmet off, and then it goes to black.
What is Mass Effect without someone almost suffocating?
God.
Or actually suffocating.
Literally my worst nightmare.
And the protagonist technically dying. Because that's what happens.
Yeah. I feel like it's also cracking a joke at Mass Effect 2's expense. It's like you were dead for 2 minutes. Or 6 minutes, or whatever it was. But yeah, you're on. It cuts to black, and then you wake up looking around. You're on clearly a medical bed as they're pulling you through somewhere, telling you that you're going to be okay. Cora, I believe, is with you as well, and as well as the doctor and Dr. Lexi, and they're just taking you somewhere, and then you pass out again, and then you wake up in Sam's core.
This is a nod, I feel, to Mass Effect 2 because it's a lot of that dreamy in and out as you're being resurrected.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's a little more urgent because they're trying to bring you back to life immediately.
Yeah.
And you do wake up in Sam node. And I thought it was kind of sweet that Liam's like sitting on the floor near you.
It was actually very sweet. When you sit up, Sam asks if you're all right, and you respond, and then Liam asks who you're talking to.
Right.
And then you mention that you were talking to Sam, and you ask what's going on, and they tell you, yeah, to save your life, we put Sam in your head.
Well, actually, that is not what happened. What happened was, to save your life, your father gave you his helmet, killing himself, and then passed over the role of Pathfinder to you instead of his actual second in command.
Yep. Which is Cora, I believe.
Yes, it is Cora, which seems sus.
Yeah.
Cora is having a really hard time with it. She says something beautiful. He wanted to go out among stars no one had ever seen before, but I doubt he wanted to go out that soon.
Seemed to have a lot of life in him.
But yeah, he makes you Pathfinder instead of Cora. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it just feels confusing. You know, we don't know a lot about this planet. I don't know anything about pathfinding as the player. I imagine that Ryder knows about pathfinding because their father is a pathfinder, but it does seem sudden. It's also very weird that, yeah, like you have this now direct connection to Sam, that you can hear Sam in your head, not just over the loudspeaker, which Sam can do both, which is like,
right.
Okay, great. There was nobody asked for my consent before you put a robot in my brain.
Well, your dad did it.
Right.
Everyone actually has a Sam implant.
Yeah.
Everyone on
do
this
they?
team.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just that the Pathfinder's implants are more intense.
Yeah.
And this particular connection to Sam is completely integrated into your nervous system.
Right.
So it's impossible to separate Sam. So this is something that your dad did to you.
Yeah. And like they say that it was also the only way they could save your life is by your dad doing this. Like you would have died otherwise. And so Sam is the language they use. You're right. Is Sam is fully integrated into your nervous system, which is like, okay, that's something.
Yeah. Cora seems really brusque, but I get it.
Yeah.
It must suck to, like, your mentor just died, and instead of making you his successor, he passed you over for his kid, who didn't train the way you trained, who, isn't ready for this the way you're supposed to be ready for this.
Yep.
And somebody has to stay focused, because this person just lost their father, and that has to suck just as bad.
Yep.
And I feel like Cora takes on the mom role.
Yeah.
Kind of, because somebody has to.
Right. Yeah. And like Liam seems relieved that you're okay. It's very sweet that he was sitting for you, waiting for you to wake up again. And it's also not long after this that you find out, due to everything that happened, in my case, Sarah is going to be okay, but has to still stay in the fridge just a little bit longer. Due to everything that happened, she'll be fine, but you can't wake her up yet because it's still too soon. She just needs more time to heal and to, like, defrost, as it were.
And Sam also says something about Alec, saying he'd insist we grow bolder from his passing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I still think he was kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't have to make me Pathfinder. You just had to give me your helmet. You could have stopped there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our dad fucked things up for us.
Yeah, that sounds about right based on the little we knew about him.
How do you feel about the next cutscene we experience where we see those hostile aliens?
I'm curious. Obviously, there's some kind of leader amongst them who comes to the tower and is able to recreate an image of what happened. And we see this alien sees Alec, and Alec shutting down the tower. And then, we see them seem to be aggravated and then walk out. I don't really have any context. I'm guessing this is the villain. This is the big bad. That's what this game is hinting at to me, is that this is this is our Saren, essentially. But that's the context. That's just based on the context, But also, we are viewing these aliens as hostile because they were killing us. So, and we were killing them. So it's hard to really know. And I like that it's nebulous still.
My next note is knock knock, bitch. And I think that's because we found the Nexus.
Yes. We arrive at the Nexus, and it's very disconcerting that the lights don't seem to be on, among other things. It just seems very not complete.
I feel so bad for all of the characters in this game. Just all of them, because nothing is going right.
Yeah.
Nothing's going right for Cora, nothing's going right for Ryder. Liam's having a hard time. Captain Dunn is upset. Like, everything's terrible. And as I was saying about Cora, she is brusque, but she's also very supportive. She asks you if you're okay, and her voice is very soft with you as well. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's different for Scott.
It was the same. Nothing noticeable. No opportunities to flirt with anybody yet. But we're also informed, like the captain is urging us to, like we hail them, no response. We go to the auto dock, and the captain urges us to go onto the Nexus and see what's going on. They're supposed to be expecting us. We need a place for our folks. They're all going to wake up soon. And so we have to go to the shuttle to go, Cora, Ryder, and Liam go to the shuttle to head over to the Nexus and see what's going on.
When we get to the Nexus, there is a familiar face waiting for us.
Avina. But my first reaction to seeing Avina is, why does Avina have clothes now? Why?
I'm glad that she has clothes. She deserves clothes.
I am too. I'm just confused why now. Why does this version of Avina have clothes, but the other version doesn't?
Master has given Avina a sock. Avina is free.
You can ask Avina questions.
That's a plot point.
As you always do. And she's not super helpful because a lot of her access is not open.
She knows absolutely nothing.
Yeah, she tells you the things that you can see. But as you wander in further, you find an engineer literally welding and working and building, which is disconcerting.
And he's just like, he has absolutely no reaction to these three strange people who just walk up on him. And he's just like, okay. And when you tell him who you are, he's just like, that sounds fake.
Yeah. Essentially, he's like, you're not supposed to be here. No one's here. Nobody arrived.
We thought you were all dead. We're lost in dark space. I love the way he says dark space.
Yeah, it's very good.
I'm really excited about the character that we meet next.
Yeah, we are greeted by a Turian.
His name is Tyrion Kandros.
Should that mean something to me?
It should mean something to you.
Doesn't ring a bell if it should mean something to me. So spell it out for me like I'm an idiot.
In Mass Effect 3, we met the first female Turian.
Uh-huh.
In the game.
Right.
Whose name was Nyreen Kandros.
Oh, I forgot that Nyreen's last name was Kandros. Interesting.
So Tyrion and Nyreen are related.
Oh, okay.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I forgot, so it didn't have any impact on me, but that is cool.
Yeah, we find out a lot of shit has gone down. That dark energy we encountered, it's called the Scourge. There's no other arcs. There was a mutiny. The hostile aliens we encountered, they're called the Ket. The command structure is all fucked up.
Yep. Things just seem to be going poorly all around.
Yeah, absolutely no one who was supposed to be in charge when we got there is in charge.
Yep, but he is taking us to meet the team that is currently in charge as of this moment.
And we meet Director Tan and Foster Addison.
Within minutes, I clocked Tan's voice actor, which is Kumail Nanjiani, one of my favorite comedians and actors. And I just wrote in my notes, Kumail the Solarian.
I like him as an actor. Director Tan can suck a dick.
Look, I have no context. He was perfectly nice to me here, so...
Foster Addison also sucks.
Okay.
Foster makes me more upset than Tan. Tan is just a bureaucrat. Foster, when she finds out that Alec is dead, she, immediately goes off, we don't need someone who's untried. This is all for nothing because your dad is gone. It's like, you know what? He was my dad. So maybe... back the fuck off.
Yep.
Because if I can grieve and do my job, maybe you can do the same thing.
Yeah. You make it clear that you're capable and that you should be given a chance instead of just assuming you can't do the job. And she's brusque and essentially walks off grumbling, whatever, I guess. Fine, do your job.
I just don't like the way she reacts to Alec's death, to Sarah's face.
Yeah.
Where it's there's no sympathy. There's no oh God, your dad. There's no...
Nothing.
trying to figure out what happened, how it happened, nothing. She's I don't like her. She leaves such a bad taste in my mouth.
Tan here at least seems like there's some sense of concern in his voice. He doesn't assume everything's your fault in this moment, at least. So like that's why I was kind of softer on Tan in this moment. I'm sure that'll change.
Also because you love the actor.
I mean, yes.
And then we meet Kesh. Kesh is great. I love Kesh.
Kesh, the female Krogan, gives me grunt vibes mostly just because she seems capable. She seems badass. Also gives me Eve vibes because she's just very supportive. She is kind and understanding and logical. And like she takes a moment to fill you in on what's going on, whereas everyone else just kind of yelled at you.
What I really like about Kesh is that so far we've met a couple of Krogan that we've interacted with who are very aggressive and who are very combat focused. Eve was the one that was very diplomacy focused. And Kesh seems to like toe the line between all of those. She is not afraid to speak her mind, but she's also not going to jump down your throat. She wants Ryder to succeed, clearly. Like, you brought me power. You're making it possible for me to run this station. Because she's like the head engineer or something to that effect. And she's just thankful that you're here to help push things forward. And now they're no longer stagnant. Now progress can happen. And she cares about progress.
Yeah.
And you can tell it in the way that she talks to Ryder. And I think she's so great. She's different from any other Krogan we've met. But she still kind of has those ideals that we're familiar with.
Yeah, totally. And also like she's excited because the ship is there, they now have more power because they can take power from the ship. And also they have food and supplies because they had none because the ships had the food and supplies. And so now, but urges you to not wake up people yet because the station is not ready to house all of those humans yet.
Yeah.
Which is also concerning to Ryder, who now has a ship full of humans that have to stay in stasis, even though they were supposed to be woken up by now.
Well, the Nexus wasn't even intended to house all of these people. Like, it's supposed to be a hub.
Right. You were meant to find a new planet. Yeah.
And that's really where we end.
Yep.
How did you feel?
I'm cautiously optimistic. You know, it's impossible to ignore the negative reception that this game got. And I know a lot of it was due to graphical hiccups, which mostly have been patched out by this point. And I didn't see any graphical issues when playing. But it all feels new and weird. And I was much more optimistic about Mass Effect 3 this time around for the podcast. I had originally been much harder on it. I think it's actually a much better game than people give it credit for. And so I want to go into this also assuming that it'll be great. And then if I'm disappointed, I'm disappointed. But like I don't want to just assume it's going to be bad. So far, I think it's interesting. I'm not vibing with the combat as well as I'd like. I think the exploration is interesting, but feels weird because it's so different from the exploration we've had before. And the character designs are all new and different, you know, except for maybe the Solarians and even the Krogan. The humans all have a larger variety in the facial details, are way more detailed. The Asari as well. And like, so I'm getting used to the new character models, the new layouts, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I think I'm going to enjoy it. Whether I'm going to love it as much as the original trilogy, I don't know. It's too soon to tell. I think that I'm trying to just get out of my own way. Right now, I'm having an okay time. I want to have a good time, and I think I will, but right now I'm not there yet. And I think, but the game just started. There's only first few hours, so we're not even anywhere near the meat of it yet. And I'm sure I'll have a better idea once we get more beyond this.
I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised as we go on. Based on what we have discussed so far. Is there anything in particular that you're excited to learn or that you're really anxious to get to?
I mean, I just want to know more about this world. I'm surrounded by strangers, and now some of these folks are strangers to Ryder, but also a lot of them are strangers to me because I've not experienced any of these characters before. You spend 3 games and countless hours with characters, especially since you replay over and over again, to have a whole new world of Mass Effect to explore, that I'm excited about. I want to meet new characters, new races, new romance. You know, I love the romance in the other Mass Effect games, and so I'm excited to get to crush on new people. Like I said, I am obviously already attracted to Cora, whether anything comes of that or not. Liam's not really my type, and I think that, you know, shooting a dead alien for 10 minutes kind of
it puts a damper on things.
It does a little bit. Though I do know later this season we have a particular human who is very excited to talk about Liam more.
Yes.
But that said, I think I am excited to just learn more about this world and how it connects to the Mass Effect trilogy. Because I know while it's separate, like you get to choose the gender of your shepherd. Obviously, mine was male, yours was female, because there's only binary options. And we're creating this in the world where our shepherds exist. That's the logic, right? Just like we were shepherd, now we're rider, and we're playing as if we were rider. It's weird though. I will say I feel more like I'm playing a character than I'm playing myself. And I'm trying to do the same thing we did in the trilogy, but because this is such a new experience, I'm more outside of it, I think, than I would normally be.
That's fair. I think it's going to take some time to feel at home in a new character. Like, the thing that made the original trilogy so personal for us is because we had built homes inside these characters already. And for you, you haven't had the opportunity to try to do that. But I think we'll get there. The question that I have that you don't have to answer if you don't have an answer for it is, do you have any theories that you might want to spit out? I know it's early, but has anything stood out to you?
Well, I mean, your reaction to Tan already tells me that he's going to be our new fuck the elusive man, probably.
Tan's not that bad. I just don't like
it. Fair enough. But no, I mean, I shared my theory that character of the Ket that we saw, the kind of sage-looking Ket that we don't know the name of, is the main villain. I don't know. I have no way to prove that. You know, I mean, I know there are characters who exist. I've seen them in the wild, their names, you know, characters like PB and stuff who I know will eventually meet just because I've seen the merch and I've seen screenshots. Also, you cosplayed as PB a while back.
It's true, I did. Facebook Memories told me that recently.
So, like, I know that characters like that exist. I know that I'll get to spend time with my sibling, and I'm interested to see that dynamic because we've not... Like, I think that we have a strong relationship with our sibling, but I have no idea. I can't tell just based on what I've seen so far. But yeah, I don't have any massive theories yet, you know, just because I don't know enough yet.
I was just curious. Cool. So before we close out, we did restructure the podcast a little bit. We're not going to be doing Fandom Corner as much unless something really awesome sticks out, just because I can only search Etsy so many times before I find you everything Mass Effect related.
It's true. That's true.
So instead, I would like to offer the segment Advice for Survival in a New Galaxy, in which me and a guest, should we have one, offers Matt some non-spoilery advice to better enjoy Andromeda.
Which I think is a great idea. I think, you know, we already have guests lined up from previous seasons who love this game and who are coming into this loving this game. We're also going to have some guests who don't love this game because I think both sides are important. The idea is, though, is to give benefit of the doubt wherever and to not try and soil my experience with someone else's negative experience. But we do want to still give voice to the folks who didn't like this game because I think obviously both voices are valid. I think it's all in the spirit of helping me to understand this game. And I think this segment will be great in the future. And I assume you have one already for this episode to share with me.
I do. I think you have kind of figured this out already, but my advice is to literally scan everything that you can get your hands on. Scan as much as you possibly can. It will be a great benefit to you. You're going to find out the way in which scanning benefits you fairly soon. If not the next episode, then the episode after that. And you're going to see what it can do for you. Not only will it progress the story, but it'll get you resources, and it adds a little something. It can be a little frustrating to walk around staring at your scanner, but it's worthwhile. Scan as much as you possibly can.
Okay, I will. I mean, like I said, I like the scan mechanic. It's interesting. I just think I can see it as one of those things that I would ignore because it just seems like extra work. And so I'm curious to see how the game gives me a reason to. Because right now we have it's just informational, which is good, but I also don't read any of the codex. I mean, that's also because I've read all those codex so many times. Although in this game I've read none of the codex either, which I should, but who has time?
I will confirm that scanning does have more benefit than just giving you information.
Okay.
And a lot of the times you'll scan something and Sam will kind of like summarize what it is you're looking at.
Okay.
So you don't necessarily have to go to a codex for it.
Okay.
Sometimes it'll be informational, but if that's the case, it's story driven.
Right.
So there's a reason for it.
Right.
But yeah, that is my advice for surviving a new galaxy.
Awesome.
Feels so weird. We're on a new game, a new show.
Yeah, I mean, we've been on hiatus for a while, especially longer than y'all have been on hiatus without us, because we had recorded those TTRPG sessions, which were a blast, a while before the end of the season. And so it has been a while since Frankie and I talked, and so we're getting back into the swing of things, but we're excited. It's also weird because I need Frankie to take the reins a lot for helping me to wrangle guests and for planning out the season, because I literally can't give advice because I've never played this game.
Yeah.
And so that's been a challenge for me because I'm taking a more passive role than I've ever taken in the show. And I'll find other ways to be effective and helpful, but it's weird for me because I was such an active part of like the production and booking, which I can only sort of do now skeletally because I don't know the game.
And to be completely honest with you, listeners, this is not going to be as cut and dry as it has been previously. I've been able to give you a episode map so you can follow along and play along with us in the past. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that here. I think what I just have to do is figure out what we're doing next, and then we do it.
Yep.
And that's not ideal, and it makes it a little harder for us to book guests, but this is a very exploratory game. This is a game that does not move on railroad tracks. So some things are triggered by other things. Some things aren't triggered until you do something else. And it's just not going to be easy to do it in a linear way.
Yeah, I think that if you want to play along with us, I think just take it slow and tune into each episode to find out what we're going to do next and play as much of that as you can. But at this point, I think it's going to be more of a join us in a listening experience based on your own experience, not a mission by mission experience. We do plan to explore specific characters with guests as well. You know, shout out to Normandy FM that did a similar structure like that for Inquisition, which I think we're sort of going to be in similar with. Like, we're going to try and do missions as much as we can. But Frankie also wants to give me the opportunity to explore on my own. And if we have a tight-knit schedule, that's going to be harder to do in some areas, I'm told.
Yeah. I think a lot of what you're going to be seeing is like a couple of story-driven episodes and then an exploration episode. And then a couple of story-driven episodes and then a specific mission. So we'll see how it goes, and we will definitely make you aware of what our process is. And if you're interested in being a guest, if there's something that you want to talk about, you know how to find us, because we're about to tell you in just a minute.
Yes. But why don't you tell the listeners what we're doing next?
Yeah, our next episode will cover exploration of the Nexus now that it has an arc to help keep the lights on. We're going to talk to people, we're going to pick up some missions, we're going to do as much exploration of this new central hub as we can before we move on to the rest of Andromeda.
Yes, and likely you will find out when we have guests on the episodes that we have them. There are some that we can safely say that we know what episode they're coming on, but there are others that it's just kind of closer to akin to season 1 of Reignite, where we're still figuring out a flow. And so we will definitely have guests. We have plans for new guests that have never been on the show before. We have plans to return old favorites. And so just be patient as we explore this new galaxy in a new way.
And if you like what you heard here, you can follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, facebook.com/reignitepod, or you can send us an email, especially if you want to be a guest, at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher if you can. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're also members of the Certain Point of View podcast network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server. We're constantly having conversations about gaming, books, comic books, TV, and movies. There is a whole separate channel labeled Matt Stay Out, where folks are talking spoilery stuff about Andromeda. That I will not be able to look at until we're done with this season, but that's fine. But, join in the conversation. Our favorite part about this podcast is how interactive y'all have been, and we hope you'll continue to be. I've already seen several folks tweet at me when I shared screenshots that I had started the game, very excited, and so we love to see your passion. So don't stop sharing that with us.
And if you're enjoying Andromeda's shenanigans and I have a personal plug to share, you should catch me over on Archives of the Dragon every other Monday, where my spouse, Professor John Bradley Lestrange, leads us through the wild unknown outside the Helios cluster in Andromeda. You can find that at twitch.tv/Archives of the Dragon.
I am still in the same place I have always been. You can go to www.djstormageddon.com to see all the stuff that I'm doing. It has links to all of my podcasts, both that I host and that I produce. It also has a link to my merch page where you can buy a ton of really cool stuff. If you're looking for a great way to support me, which then in turn supports this and other shows, buying my merch is the best way to do that right now. But yeah, and I want to shout out personally my interview podcast, CPOV Autographs. I've had some really cool and interesting guests on there. And so if you like listening to me talk, which you must on some level, I recommend you check out my interview show, which again, you can find at djstormageddon.com.
We'd like to thank Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble, featuring our favorite marshmallow, Kata Alenko. You can find more of his work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
We'd also like to thank Carter's husband for developing more amazing t-shirts that you can find through certainpov.com or on Teespring. I'm sure that after hearing this episode, he'll have even more ideas.
We'd like to thank David Boyle for redesigning our logo like a champ. Thank you so much, David. You're the best. And lastly, thank you to JT Music and Andrea Storm Caden for our new theme song.
Yes, we have a brand new theme song called Feels Like Home. And in honor of our new theme song, you heard an excerpt of it at the top. We're going to play the full song at the end. Thank you, JT Music, for letting us use this track. We love it. You can find JT Music on YouTube. Just look up JT Music. They do rap songs and music for all sorts of games and other nerd culture. Go check out their stuff. It's great.
All right, I'm Frankie.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
Good luck, Pathfinders.
In a place that ain't the safest. How could I think space was vacant? Take a look around at the trails I'm blazing. A galactic scale invasion, looking for the home to stake or claiming. Get in my way, I'll take my aim and make your face an alien pavement. This train has left the station, now I'll take these rails and break them. Dust off the sails and raise them. We may be way past saving, so if you got prayers, say them. It's a Hail Mary play we're making. My people need no shepherd to keep their faith from shaking. Even though I see no halo, still feels like I'm reclaiming.
You know I'll always be by your side. When the chips are down, we'll survive. Now that my path is finally found, this arc will never go down.
I'm bored asleep. Better wake me up, there's more to see. I'm pushing off from shore to sea. Andromeda, what you got in store for me? Ha! And I don't need Normandy. When my temp is ready, I'll storm the beach. Need a pathfinder, just ask Ryder. Rewards of war, I'm straight.
Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand alone. I hear you call my name, and it feels like home. Just like a prayer, your voice can take me there. And where you're taking me remains a mystery. Just like a dream, you won't know what you see. We're not alone, I trust in you to take me home. Take me
Stranded, left for dead. Get a grip, then catch my breath. Now that my quest is set, I can unravel whatever the remnant left. Unlock these ancient vaults on every planet I resurrect. Impacting gravity, I guess I'm having that mass effect. Environmental check. Haven't ever used this weapon yet. Ha! Caught up in a mess again. I could've swept them up instead of left them wrecked. With the nexus depending on me, better lock and load and then rev my jets. Never test my intelligence, I've got same to keep me at a level head. Any more cybernetic integration, then I'll be one step from death. Voices I can't erase, memories that I can't forget. Lost and lost on lives. a change of scenery. Hospitality seems sporadic, and I'm far from earthly greenery. Time to plant my flag and planets, and my land shan't be seen for me. Even when I'm stranded empty-handed, I can harness dark energy deeply. Call me anomaly, one of a kind. Follow my calling with all that I find. God is a colony starting alive, unlocking vaults one at a time. Milky Way, guiding port of Andromeda, walk along the borders. I'm exploring every corner for the resources I've been wanting more of. If you know my name, you better say your prayers. Get down on your knees and beg your life be spared. Call me Madonna, cause I'm paving the way. You should be honored that you're walking on the trail that I blazed.
Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand alone. I hear you call my name, and it feels like home, just like a breath. Your voice can take me there, and where you're taking me remains a mystery, just like a dream. You are not what you seem. It's a lonely road. I wonder what it feels like. Feels like home.
Hi, I'm Matt, aka Stormageddon, and I'm the host of CPOV Autographs at certainpov.com. It is a bi-weekly interview series where I interview folks from all over the arts, from writers to comedians to magicians to musicians, even actors, historians, podcasters, pretty much anyone who's willing to chat with me for a little bit. If you like interesting conversations with even more interesting people, go to certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, music is life, and life is good.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.